Okay. Just hello. I think it's okay. Hi, good morning. So hopefully at the back, is there any problem hearing the speaker? Okay. So let's just before the class, just mention a few things. The first thing is the homework assignment 2 is ready. Okay. For the homework assignment 1, just because there were a few students last Thursday and Friday, at the end of last week, they just got a permission to register. So they got a few days extension because otherwise they could not see the campus homework assignments. They got a few days grace period to finally file and submit the homework 1. So for homework 1, we will release everything probably a little later, maybe this Thursday or so. But homework 2 is ready, so you should look at homework 2 and try to start. If you get any questions on homework 2, you can either come to my office hour or to TA's office hour or raise some question on Piazza. Okay. We make sure you start early because homework assignment 2, actually the due date is October 4th. It's not too far away. Okay. So you look at this, you need to try early because we have only about 2 weeks to get this homework done. Okay. Now we come down to the cube computation part. We said for data warehouse, okay, one important motivation for building data warehouse is we want to integrate the data. And not only want to integrate them, we want to aggregate them, prepare them, so people can do drilling, dicing, and all the OLAP operation in a very efficient, very scalable way. Okay. Then we claim the data cube technology serves as the core of data warehouse. We use this graph, this picture, to show the data cube could be very big, the computation could be very expensive, and we need to study it. Yesterday I saw there are some students on Piazza still got a little confusing on the cuboids, the data cube, and the cell. Okay. So I probably should try to emphasize again. This one, it looks like a cube. It actually only represents one cuboid. One cuboid means this one is a 3D time, product, and location. It's a 3D cuboid. Okay. The whole data cube is a whole lattice. All the dimensions, big or small. Okay. Just give you a simple example. You look at this one. This is the 3D, the product, date, and the country is a 3D base cuboid. Okay. That means that one itself, conceptually you can think it's a cube. Okay. But the cube contains data in 3D dimensions. But for the whole data cube, it contains all these lattices, from the 3D base to 2D aggregated cuboids. There are 3 of them. Then to 3 1D aggregated cuboids. Then finally to the apex cuboid, which may only contain one single cell. But all the others contain lots of cells. Okay. Look at this one. This one may contain many, many cells in this one cuboid. Okay. So that's a 3D base cuboid. Question? Okay. Yeah, the question is, are we exploring the concept of hierarchies for every dimension? In reality, we do. Okay. In this this one, we did not say there's a concept hierarchy. Simply says, for example, you chop the country, you get in product date. Okay. The country, if you think it's a location dimension, we only have one value, country, either in or not. Okay. Not means the country is replaced by stop. But in reality, there are lots of layers, or we call conceptual levels, for every dimension. Okay. For every dimension, for example, this country actually could be, the lower one could be state, could be city, a county, city, or even down to the street. Okay. But the higher level one for country can even go to the continent. Okay. Then you go to the whole world. Right? So, but this simplified graph, we just say there's only a single level, yes or no, either concrete level or it's the star. Okay, that's it. But that's a very simple one. But why we always use the simple one? Just because their computation actually could be rather close. Okay. For example, you'll say chop this, or you can think it's going up. Okay, replace. You can think this country, in principle, can be 5 different dimensions. You have street, you have city, you have county, you have state, you have country, you have continent. Okay. So you have many, many dimensions. You chop one, actually essentially is going up. So to that extent, most textbooks use a very simple one like this. Okay. But in reality, you do have lots of layers. Okay. When you roll up, you go up one layer. But you complete chop of this country is also roll up. The roll up by replacing this dimension with star, with all. That's it. So that's just a simplified definition. Why we want to simplify it? You can think about this. If every dimension has 5 levels, and you get it, essentially have a star, you get 6 levels. So 6 times 6 times 6, you get so many dimensions. This graph will be very messy. You actually have, if you say 6 times 6 times 6, you have 216 cuboids. So it's so big, you will not be able to draw in the simple graph. That's the reason most of the discussion actually focusing on a simplified picture. But in real reality, actually, the computation is more involved. Actually, it's even more complicated than we discussed the algorithm here. But the complication is proportional in the sense. What we discussed, the general spirit, will be useful for the implementation in the real industry, in the real data warehouse industry. Okay. So that's the reason we always use a simplified model like this one. We do not discuss levels. Okay. But the levels, they do exist in reality. And it's very popular. Of course, if you go to industry, they will tell you the level is a little simpler than the dimension because the levels usually go, for example, just thinking about a country. If you go down to state, the country will maintain the same. You will not change. Say Illinois, it's USA. You will never change Illinois to Canada. Right? So that, to that extent, is a little more restricted. Not like you get a country, the data can change anything. Right? You get a Canada, you can change any date. You get a USA, you can change any date. So that's, they are mutually independent. But you get a one dimension, they are sort of like a constraint. You say Illinois, they know it's US. So you won't change it to any other country. Right? So that's, hopefully you understand the essence. We discussed this, it's a little simplified model. We ignore the levels. Okay. Now, last time we discussed the general philosophy of the data cube computation. We call general heuristics. The general heuristics, there are several heuristics in that research paper actually implied in all the algorithm development. They use similar heuristics. Okay. One called smallest child. Smallest child means if you want to get this cube, So suppose this cuboid product is one dimension cuboid. It's only a product you may have a sum, or you may have an average price or maximum price or whatever. So this product is 1D. But you may have a little lower aggregated cuboids. For example, you may have product date and product country. You may have two. Both materialized, means pre-computed. If both computed, now I want to compute product. You have two choices. Okay. That means either you do aggregation on product date, this cuboid. You say, add all the dates, top of the dates, add all the dates, and go up to the product. That's one way to do it. Another way is you take this child cuboid, which is product country. Then you say, add all the countries to this product. For example, suppose this product is diaper. Okay. You take the diaper, you say, this is Canada, this is US, this is Mexico, this is, like France, all the different countries. I add all these together, it becomes just diapers sold in all the countries. So you can do this. The first question, smallest child, means you have two children, you can go up to get this parent. How we get it? Okay. Smallest child means if these two, one is big, one is small, you always use the small one. That's the smallest child. What do you mean always use small one? That means suppose you have many, many dates. Suppose you got 10 years data, you get 3,600 something dates. Okay. This one, the country, suppose you get 100 countries. Okay. Which one to use? Use the country, which is very obvious, right? Because you have 100 countries, you add 100 value, you get a new value. But you get 3,000 dates, you add 3,000 together, you get one value. Which one is more efficient? 100 is more efficient because it's smaller, right? So that's smallest child. That's one heuristic. Okay. The second heuristic for hash results. Hash results means when you want to add it up, okay, that means you get a cuboid from one cuboid to the other cuboid. Remember, when you compute the things, you usually start with the base. You try to aggregate to generate all those cuboids. This base cuboid is pre-computed. Okay. For example, you say product date country, you already computed, you store there, is a base cuboid. Okay. Taking this base cuboid, you can compute up to get all the cuboids computed. This cache results means while you compute in the middle, okay, you don't want to swap them back to the disk. You cache it, you go up at the same time compute other things. Why do that? Because you are going to use this portion anyway. If you put them back to the disk, later computation, you have to swap them back. That's a lot of I/O processing, very expensive. Just give you an example. Okay. Suppose you start from this. You compute product country. Of course, you can say, I compute product country. For everything I compute, I swap them back to the disk. For example, you get a product is diaper, country is USA. You compute it, you get this result. You swap back to the disk, you compute another country, another product. Remember those, there's so many products, right? So you cannot hold everything in the main memory. You have to swap something to the disk. You can say, I swap them to the disk for this cuboid. Then later they want to say you compute the product or you compute the country. What do? You have to fetch this from the disk back to the main memory. That's very expensive. Right? So this cache results means while you are computing this, you cache it. You don't swap them back to the disk. If you can at the same time compute other things, you save your I/O cost. Right? So that's the second heuristic. The third heuristic is amortized scans. Amortized scans means you are scanning the database, scanning anything, try to compute other things. Amortized means while you do one scan, you try to compute as much as possible. Okay. That means I have 3 computation tasks. While I scan this one, I try to see who needs this. I'll give it to you. Instead of I do another scan. The scan is very expensive. Right? Share sorts. That means once you sort something, you try to see whether my sorting can help you compute other things. That means if I sort it by, say, by product, then I try to share this sort, try to compute other things in a similar way. So this is share sort. Share partition is similar. While I partition this, I can fetch this, say, bulky things into the main memory. I should share all the other partitions if they need similar things. Okay. So we know computing data cube is very expensive. These are the general guidelines to develop algorithms. Okay. Now we come down to the real algorithm. That means that the people work out these general guidelines. They do not work out a very concrete algorithm how to compute this. Okay. I will give you the first algorithm called multi-way array aggregation. What is multi-way array aggregation? So you take this cuboid, this base cuboid, as the starting point. That means I have a huge cuboid containing ABC, 3 dimensions, and their aggregates. What is ABC? You can think that ABC is your product, date, country, like that. Anything like this. You can think there are 3 dimensions. I want to compute 2D cuboids, 1D cuboids, and 0D cuboids. Okay. So I want to compute this way. So you can see how many 2D cuboids. If you have ABC, you have cuboids AB, AC, BC. These 3. You need to compute it. Then you need to compute ABC, single dimension cuboids. Then you need to compute all, everything. And you put them together. Okay. Then the problem becomes how we can compute all these in a very efficient way. Of course, in real life, that's exactly like we discussed. In real life, it's not just ABC. You have more dimensions. You may have something like 10 dimensions. In real life, each dimension may have more levels. You may have 5, 6 levels, which is quite popular. The real computation is even more complicated than we discussed here. But here, it just gives you some impression. And once you know this, you know how to compute it. You can write it, a little extension of the algorithm to cover all these others. Why we think it's a big deal? Just because the data cube is such a huge one. Even at the base is such a huge one. When you go up, it can grow even bigger. Okay, and the computation could be very expensive. So now we first look at this multi-way array computation. We call this one as a bottom-up algorithm. What is bottom-up? We think the bottom part is your base cuboid. Okay. The upper part, the top part is your apex. Okay. This ABC is your base. This R is your apex. This is very top. It's only single cell. Okay. But in the middle, you start from base, you go all the way up. That means you first compute A, B, A, C, B, C, then you compute A, B, C, you compute A. This computation, you start from your base cuboid, go up, okay, to the top of your apex. This we call bottom up. Sorry. I think somehow they actually got a little. We still go down this But I should say is, if you read some research literature, okay, they call this one is top-down computation. The other way is bottom-up. Don't get confused and don't get puzzled. Remember, the computer science, take the trees always upside down. You know the computer science, every time when you draw a tree, you do not draw the leaf on the top, you draw the root on the top, right? You start from the root, you go down. It's like this in tree. There are lots of trees you draw this way. So the computer science people like to do this. It's always upside down when you draw the trees. Okay. So that's the same thing. You can think about it when you draw the tree. You can think you grab this, you expand this tree. You will think ABC is at the top. Okay. Then you start expanding, you get ABAC, ABC or something. You go down. So that's why some people writing research papers, they say this one's top down. Okay. But we want to use a more business-like, because you think about this base, you think it's at the bottom. When you roll up, you go up. You will not say roll up, you go down, right? Like you go from the street going down to city and county and state, you say, I go up. You never say go down. You say go down to the street. Right? So that's the difference. We like to use business like this in order to avoid all the confusion. We do not use a pure computer science way. Now I come down to the real monster, even the base cube. Why we call this base cuboid is a monster? Okay. I just give you a very simple example. It probably will become easy. Okay. Suppose we got, say, 40,000 students in UIC, which is true. Okay. You do not even look at the history. Now we have 40,000. Right? Suppose we have 10,000 courses in all the universities. Okay. And you register a course. You were thinking your registration actually is a cuboid. Cuboid means you are one student, you register 3 courses this semester, so you get 3 things non-empty. Okay. So you have a semester, you have a course, you have students. Then in the center is your registration. How big this cuboid is? Okay, think about this. You have a time. Suppose you are here for 4 years. 4 years, you get an 8 semester or so. The time is 8 semester. Okay. Course, you get a 10,000 course, but you are not going to take 10,000 courses in this school, right? You probably only take 20, 30, 40, right? You graduate. And there are so many students. How big this cuboid is? That's still very big, because 40,000 times 10,000 times 8 semesters is still a very big cube, right? But you may say, oh, this cube, the majority of things are empty, because I'm not going to take all the courses in any semester, not in all the semesters. So which is true. Okay. In most cases, you look at the cuboid, many of them are very sparse. That means you are dealing with a very sparse cube, even for our UIC registry, very sparse. If you draw this cube, you go inside, you see 99% actually is empty cells. But once you go up, actually it becomes denser and denser, because now you say not a one student. See all the computer science students. So many computer science students finally become a single cell in the dimension. That becomes denser, right? So let's look at it, how you want to compute this cuboid at the very end. Okay. The first important thing is you don't want to think this very sparse cube, you want to load them in the because the data is so sparse. You think of Walmart, you get so many transactions, you get so many items, so many days, so many different locations. It will be very, very big. You just cannot fit in your main memory. How they fit it? Okay. The first thing is people develop it. They call sparse array addressing. I think you may, I do not know, even your hardware course or some other lower level course, you probably heard about sparse array. What is sparse array addressing? Actually, it's very simple. Okay. What you need to do is you say, I partition my big cuboids into some number of chunks. Okay. You think about this. You partition them into chunks. For every chunk, okay, you only have some portions there. You can, I give you a simple example. You can think about computer science as a chunk. So all the people, all the students in computer science, okay, you probably say, this is computer science, this is ECE, this is civil engineering, this is something, right? So you bring this line, and the other line could be, say, this is the computer science courses, or this is ECE courses, or something like this. You get chunks, right? You can think that way. You can partition them into chunks. Why partition them into chunks? The reason is some part of chunk is a little dense, but some chunk is very, very sparse. For example, you think of how many computer science students taking, say, business school courses? Probably not so many. Then you don't have to load this one, the whole thing. What you need to load is just the offset. Okay, suppose there's 3 students taking business class. How many cells you want to get? You probably only need 3 non-empty cells in this part. But you do not need a huge. Take it. What do you need? You need a sparse array addressing. That means I take chunk ID. Okay. This could be computer science students taking business class, business school courses. Then any non-empty cell will become a real cell. There, you just get an offset. Right? So that means that I look at the computer science student's ID if you are ID 201, okay? And business course, suppose this course is 305, okay? 305, 201, I computed your sum ID. I actually give you an offset. That's offset. You see, register 3 credit, I put 3 credit. That's it. Right? So that's only non-empty cells will take a space. Any empty cells will have nothing. You don't store them at all. So this is sparse array. Of course, you can decode them in an easy way. Just by offset, right? That's a smart trick. The trick is you get this very big one. How do you really put them into main memory, compute them into memory? That's the trick. That means what is the best way to partition them and traverse them? Your computation will become very efficient. The first thing I probably should say is anybody in reality know this whole thing where, like a Walmart, you compute all these cuboids. There's no way you can put the whole cuboids in. You only can put some of them inside. That's a common sense. Anybody know that main memory? Now you say, oh, I have 8 gig of main memory in my laptop, or 16. Okay. Walmart, those data is 16 gigabytes is nothing, right? So you still cannot put everything here. Now we look at how we play with it. The first thing I should say is, even you get we only discussed 3D ABC. Even you get ABC is cuboid. Not every dimension is equal. Some dimension is pretty narrow, small. Some dimension is very big, very long. It just give you a simple example. If you think UIC registration, okay, this semester could be smaller because you think about it, you spend 4 years there, you just get 8 semesters. This is just 8 slots. That's pretty small. Okay. But number of students is quite big. You get 40,000 students. This is very big. Number of courses is also big, but it's smaller than students, right? You may have, say, just thinking about it, if you have 40,000 students, you have, say, 10,000 or 1,000 courses. Actually, it's still small compared to students. So that means your ABC is not even. In reality, any dimension is. Okay. Then it becomes, if you think about the 2D cuboids, the 2D cuboids is also not the same size, right? Because you think about it, suppose this is the C dimension, the number of students. Okay. Then A dimension, number of semesters. So you got students, courses, and semesters. You think about this. These cuboid size also will not be Some are pretty small, some are pretty big. Okay. Just thinking you will say, if you get, say, we just say 1,000 courses, 40,000 students, the courses and students time together, this plane will be bigger. Okay. But if you have only 8 semesters, the semester times courses will be smaller. So you have a smallest plane, biggest plane. Okay. Now the problem becomes how we arrange the computation order so the total memory needed in, supposing your laptop, you want to compute the whole Walmart, you only have a laptop. In your laptop, the total main memory used is minimized. Think about it. Can we do this? Now, the first heuristic is this. Because this cuboid is so big, you chop them into 64 chunks. Right? Because it's so big, you chop them 4 by 4 by 4, you chop them into 64 chunks. The first heuristic is bring one chunk into memory at a time. Don't bring more. You agree? Because you think about this. The student is, those things are so big. If you say, I only bring computer science students to the computer, forget all the other departments, it's possible, right? Then I only bring, one department courses inside, forget all the other departments at a time. That's also possible. So you want to bring one chunk at a time, forget all the other chunks they are on the disk. So bring like chunk 1. Then the computation becomes taking this chunk, I want to summarize to get these 3 2D cuboids computed. Okay. So you bring this chunk in, you want to compute them. The first important thing is, like we said, you don't want to bring the chunk into main memory, compute it, and say, oh, I have another thing to compute. I forgot it. I bring it back again. That's very stupid. It's very expensive. Right? So I bring this chunk 1 into my main memory. I want to finish all the computations needed for chunk 1. The chunk 1 is gone forever. I never need it again. Is that better? Right. So that simply says you bring chunk 1 in. You want to compute AC plane, BC plane, AB plane. All the plane computed, done. I throw this chunk back to the disk. I don't need it. That's a typical way. Then you may have another question, okay? Because these 2D cuboids, not that small. You think about it, 3D is very big, but 2D is still not small. You think about it, you get all the courses, all the students. That's a very big plane, right? And you may say, I do not even want the whole 2D plane put in the main memory because it's too big. I only have a laptop. What I do? Okay, that's a very good question. Then you look at the pictures, you first can realize what is the design. Okay. You think about it. If I bring chunk 1 into my main memory, I want to finish all the computation. That means I want to do aggregation on this plane, and this plane. Okay. Suppose we have ABC. Let's look at, let's first assume the size is A is the smallest, B is the second smallest, the C is the largest, right? Suppose this is the case. Then you see those pictures, you can sense what should be the computation order. What is the computation order? The first important thing is I already mark it. I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In that order, never go to the other order. Why? You look at my computation order 1, 2, 3, 4, and up to 61, 64, 63, 64. I compute exactly that order. Why? What's the trick? If I do the other order, what's wrong? Okay. Then you look at these bombarded stars. You can figure out there must be some trick. What is the trick? You can think about this. This BC plane is the largest one. When I compute 1, 2, 3, 4, you can think about it. Where I mark it as a blue one. You see where the blue falls. Okay. You think about 1, 2, 3, 4, I start doing aggregation. Okay. Look at this BC plane. 1, 2, 3, 4 actually is in the same slot, same cell. You think that way. Why I only want to do 1, 2, 3, 4? Because 1, 2, 3, 4 computation, I all store them back into this small chunk in the 2D place, this small slot. Okay. I actually do not never touch all the others. Why do that? Think about this. If I aggregate 1, 2, 3, 4, I finish this chunk. This 2D chunk is gone forever. I never need it again. That implies for this big plane in my small laptop, I actually only need this much space. I don't need the whole space. Is that true? Why I only need this space? You can think about this. 1, 2, 3, 4, these 4 chunks I computed, I bombard here. I say I finished all the computation in this region. It can be stored back into the disk. My main memory will never need this space. It's released is for the second one, right? So you actually can see there's a trick. Just to look at this picture, you see there's a big trick inside in the design. Is I put one chunk at a time, chunk 1. When I finish chunk 1, I say chunk 2, chunk 3, chunk 4. I follow this order. The reason is for this biggest plane, I need the smallest space. Right? What about smallest plane? You know, you cannot benefit anything. For the smallest plane, you actually need this whole plane in the main memory. Why? You think about this. Okay. When I do 1, 2, 3, 4, I bombard here. 1, 2, 3, 4. When I do 5, 6, 7, 8, I bombard here. When I do 9, 10, 11, 12, I bombard here. When I do 13, 14, 16, I bombard here. But none of them can be gone. Why? Because the second tier came. Okay, second tier said 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay? They will need this part again. They say, I have to add to this. You cannot put back into the disk because otherwise you have to fetch them back to the memory. But that's the best design. Think about it. The smallest plane, the whole plane is in the memory. The largest plane is only one chunk in the memory. What about the middle one? The middle one, I needed this one line, these 4 chunks in the memory. But once they finish this, they are gone. They're gone forever. See? That's still a nice design. Right? Why? You can think about this. When you do 1, 2, 3, 4, you need this part. When you do 5, 6, 7, 8, you need this part again. When you do 9, 10, 11, 12, you need this part. And then 13, 14, 15, 16, you need this part. But once this part is gone, this whole thing can go back to the disk. I only need this one line, which was 4 chunks. Right? So you can see this is a very smart design. How much memory you need? Okay, you can calculate how much memory you need. Originally thinking this chunk is a big monster. None of them can put in your laptop. Now you can see you chop this one into 64 chunks. You only need 1 chunk memory for these 3, right? 1 chunk. Then plus this largest plane, you only need this smallest chunk. Okay. This middle one, you need 4 chunks. Then this smallest airplane, you need the whole thing there. Okay. That's all the memory you need. You calculate that, you cannot be more efficient than this. Right? So that's the algorithm. Actually was developed by a PhD student in University of Wisconsin in 1997. And he developed this, and he actually also developed 2D, 1D, all these whole thing. And that shake the whole industry, and he got a PhD for sure. But he shake the whole industry. They know this is the best way to compute to the multi-dimensional bottom-up. Smallest memory. Anybody got a question on this? Think about it. Even you look at this picture almost tell you the whole essence of his PhD thesis. It's done. It's one of the best cited theses in data warehouse. Is that clear? Why he can compute so efficiently? Actually, even the chunk, remember the chunk is a compressed sparse array. The chunk, you don't need the whole chunk. Only non-empty series. Right? So the memory you need is minimized. You need a single scan, you get all things computed. And compute all the 3 planes at the same time. So you follow all the principles. And it's the best model you can get. Any questions on this picture? The picture, the color of the picture is very important. The order of picture in 1, 2, 3, 4 is very important. You get this? I'll explain it again, okay, because this one is very important. What I did and what he did, actually, what this Yifeng Zhao did, is that the first thing is he says, any chunk I use sparse array technology, I only put the non-empty cells that chunk can fetch in to the main memory. That's a space. Okay. Then, because these 2D cuboids, there are 3, and you want to compute all these 3 at the same time, you don't want to compute again, because otherwise you have to fetch this chunk again. You use one chunk space to compute all the 3 2D planes once and for all. Then the trick is you want these total 3 2D planes use the smallest space. And you don't want anybody fetch back and forth. Okay. What is smallest place? He arranged the order. The largest plane use the smallest place, one chunk at a time. Okay? And the medium one, you use one column at a time. That means you need one column to do. The smallest plane, you have to put all the planes in the main memory, but that's the smallest. Then this computation, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, this chunk order will guarantee you bombard or you aggregate to that plane or to that chunk only once. Once they are gone, you will never need it. You will never need to compute that portion again. So that's his whole trick. And that trick can be generalized from 3D to 2D, from 2D to 1D. And it can be generalized to any. Right? Is that smart design? It is. Actually, the data warehouse industry, after he published this thesis, almost everybody implemented in this way if you do the multi-array bottom-up. So that's his trick. And then you think about it. If you got a 2D airplane, you want to 2D plane, you want to compute a 1D, you will play the same trick. The same trick. You have 4D, you can play the same trick for 3D. That means in reality, you may have 5 or 6 or 7, 8. So you compute all the way. You put all these things in the main memory, but you remember every n-1D, you want to put the smallest one. So the total memory usage will be big. Otherwise, it's very big. Okay? You just cannot handle it. So that's the one. He did a substantial discussion. If you like, you can read his original paper. It's very interesting. So this one called a multi-way array aggregation. And it has been used very popularly. You need to, for my For my exam, sometimes I may give you a plan. Say how much memory you need to, what is the minimum memory? Okay, then you probably can think about it, how to get this, get a minimum memory to compute the whole thing. That's published in 1997 Sigma conference, which is very good algorithm. I think 2 years later, okay, in the same university, same research group, the University of Wisconsin, Kevin Bayer and Raghu Ramakrishnan, they published another paper. They call this one is the bottom-up computation. Okay. That's why they call the algorithm called BUC, B-U-C, bottom-up computation. But in our view, remember, we are not playing the role as computer scientists. We play a role like a businessman or ordinary people. We actually thinking what is computation is top-down computation. Okay. You start from the apex, you compute down to all those levels. That's why we call this one is top-down computation. But unfortunately, they named this one bottom-up, BUC. So we just say this BUC algorithm. But you know, it is computed in the reverse order of multi-way array computation. And why they want to compute the other way, they claim it's efficient. There are several reasons. One reason is the iceberg. What is iceberg? Okay, like last time we said, we already showed you an iceberg. The iceberg means actually in a lot of cube computation, there are lots of very scattered small cells. Okay. For example, if you say that by diaper, suppose a particular Walmart, a particular day, they only sold 1 or 2. Okay. But when you want to compute, the manager were only interested in a lot of diapers sold as a summary. Okay. They don't care 1 or 2. They say, I don't need even to look at this 1 or 2 diapers sold. Okay. In that case, they may want to say, I want higher end, I give it a condition. Anything less than 10, I can ignore it. I want to get those things. Okay. But the bottom-up computation cannot do anything. The reason is this. Okay. Your Walmart sold 1 package of that. Okay. But the whole Illinois may sold a lot. But if every Walmart only sells 1 or 2, you ignore them, you finally say that the whole Illinois sells nothing, which is completely wrong. Okay. The reason is 1 or 2 you can ignore in the final summary. But from the beginning, when you start to compute them, you have to thinking about even 1 or 2 here, 1 or 2 there. Adding together, it could be a lot. Right? So the bottom-up computation, multi-array computation, you cannot ignore anything. They only have one thing in the cell. Right? But how this BUC algorithm can do it? The BUC algorithm said, I first compute the whole thing. Then I go down to compute a little one. Then if I go down to, say, Cook County in Illinois, suppose I go down to the Cook County, I found that this particular diaper there less than 5. Okay. If my threshold is 5, I don't go to any store because the whole county sold less than 5. Who cares which store sold 1 or 2 or nothing? Right? So because you are interested in only seeing 5 or 0. So in this way, if they compute in this top-down manner, they can use IC. The lower bar party just don't count, don't calculate. But then you may say, how do you do that? You haven't computed anything yet. How could you know the whole thing is already below the threshold? How do you play this trick? Okay. This is what they play. Okay. The first thing is they have the same assumption is not everything can fit. That's a common sense. Right? Data is so huge, nobody can fit your data. But they have some way to do it. The way they do it is they do some kind of sorting. Okay. You can think this A1, A2, A3, A4 is some kind of A dimension. You base on the concrete value to sort your data. That means, suppose Walmart give me 1 year data. Say compute all the my data. I'm not going to compute in a way like a multi-way array compute. What he is going to compute is he took the whole data, take particular dimension as the starting one. They sort all things according to the value in this dimension, then sort again for dimension B, then sort again for dimension C, then sort again for dimension D. While this sorting, they actually are doing compute. Remember, we have a golden principle. Say you try to share the sort, share the all the things in the main memory, share sorting, share partitioning, share anything you can share. They are doing it. But what they do is they sort according to a particular value. Okay. Then they do partitioning and doing sorting on everything of the remaining. Okay. While they do this, they are doing computation, they are doing the chopping if they have an iceberg. The first thing you can see is that the iceberg. Why? Okay, you think about it. Suppose this A1 particular item, particular brand of diaper. Okay. You take this one, you start sorting, you say that's the remaining one. It could be a time, it could be a location, a store or something. You can go down there. But suppose you find this diaper, this particular diaper, the total sort at this point. Suppose your threshold is 10. Suppose you sort of found A2, this particular item. Actually, it's not a popular item. You get together, it's less than 10. Then the remaining thing will not need to be computed by any partition because you said the iceberg condition is 10. And this guy, this rare item sold even less than 10. Why bother to even look at the remaining dimension? So you can chop it. Actually, you can chop any time. You think about it. Suppose A1 is not so unpopular. You pass threshold, but A1 combined with B2. B2 may be a small store, right? A1 combined with B2. That means A1 sold in B2. You found is less than 10. Then the remaining thing you have to compute in chop it. So this iceberg can be used anytime in chop. As long as you find it. While you do sorting, you find this one less than the iceberg condition, you just say, throw it away. The remaining one will not need to compute it. Right? So that's the way you can think about it. Iceberg can be used immediately. Then the detailed computation, I actually did not write down, but I use this picture as the major thing. The computation essentially is you try to sort and partition. While you do A1 computation, you sort on the A1, then you can start computing this. While computing this, you will sort this one again. Actually, when you do this sorting, at the very beginning, you can follow one order. You say A, B, C, D. While I put A1 into my main memory, I start sorting B. Okay, B1, B2, B3, B4. While I put B1 there, I start sorting C. Then I start sorting D. If I do this, I actually scan this data once this portion is completely complete. And then, for this, after I finish this computation, I can say I still maintain my A1. Then I start sorting on C. Because I start sorting on C, the B actually is already, everything computed on B is already done. I start sorting on C, compute B. And then I can drop C, I just sort. So their computation the detailed computation, essentially sorting, partitioning, and doing counting, doing iceberg cutting. And they found their algorithm is pretty efficient to compute all the things. So the details you can get into the paper. I only use one slide to introduce this, but I think this is still a nice, interesting algorithm. Both algorithms actually are very good. One, I should say, if you have a small number of dimensions, the data is relatively dense, the multi-way array is the best. Okay. But if you have more dimensions, but you a little sparse, you have an iceberg condition, this bucket is the best. There are many other algorithms. In principle, I can introduce you. For example, in UIC, I got one student who took the course. He just took this course. He invented another very efficient algorithm, very smart. He introduced this algorithm. It's a bottom-up and top-down combined algorithm. Very efficiently published in the conference. So the algorithm is pretty tricky, pretty complicated. Every time in the past, every semester I teach this one, the student actually spend lots of time. Of course, they finally implement it. They do find it very efficient. But to understand this algorithm is really, really tricky. So finally, it's still in my textbook. But I finally dropped that one. I say, don't torture every year student. I just say, if you're truly interested in that algorithm, you go down inside that bottom-up and top-down computing, or star cubing. It's still popularly cited, but it's a little complicated. I just drop it. Okay. For interested students, I just say there is one very efficient algorithm. But there is one important thing I should mention is even those algorithms, they invented so many very efficient data cube computation algorithms. None of them can compute very high dimension. So I'll give you this picture, this figure to show you the high dimension one is here. Okay. So actually, the iceberg cube is here. You can see this is the iceberg cube. This is a computer full cube algorithm. This is a quotient cube, only compute the closed cube. Okay. But you probably can see, even you use Bach, you compute iceberg. For dimension not so high, like 10 dimensions, you need, like 400 megabytes. You can store this computed cube. Okay. But you get a higher and higher, they start growing exponentially. Okay. That means for high dimension, you hit the wall. There's no way you can pre-compute a very high dimension data. Okay. For some application, they don't bother. For example, you go to Walmart. Walmart say my data cube probably only 10 dimensions at most, or 8 or 7 dimensions. I may have multi-levels. Remember, multi-levels, you can think you can fold them into dimensions, but they are a little less combinatorial. Like Illinois is not the US. You don't have to look at it combined with Russia, combined with Canada. So to that extent, that they were not explode that heavy. But in some other analysis, you may need kind of high. Actually, a lot of data mining things you need kind of high dimensions. But we know the high dimension, nobody dares compute. So the problem becomes, if you want to do science and engineering analysis, you want to do biodata analysis, you want to do statistical survey analysis, you are handling many, many dimensions. I do not know. Sometimes you go to airport, you may get a long delay. The airport say, I give you credit, I give you a survey book or something. There are many questions. They say there are 40 questions. Every question you can write down quickly, say this one is true, this one is true. You take 40 slots, you get some credits. I did this once. But got a delay, they give me a survey. Like say this airline is good or the other airline will take them or something. They do this. But those surveys usually can get hundreds of errors. If you have 40 questions, it's 40 times. Right? So it's easily get high dimension data. Once you get this high dimension data, how do you handle it? Can you use data cube to do computation? You can roll up and drill down. That's a big question. In the past, people just cannot answer. In year 2004, there's one PhD student, Xiaolei Li, and the other one is Hector Gonzalez, also my PhD. We started discussing about this high dimension level. Then we work out a very efficient computation method called high dimensional OLAP. Now, I'm going to give you a little introduction. That means low dimension, you use multi-array computation using Buck, using star cubing, using computer efficiency. But high dimension, nobody there because you got explosion, right? Remember, I give you a simple one. Say you have only one cell, two cells in 100 dimension cuboids. How many cells you will generate? If you compute it, it's 2 to the power 100. If it's 2 to the power 100, nobody can compute it. Nobody there to store it. Right? So that's the typical common sense. And then you said, forget it. Why you want to develop algorithms? If you claim nobody there to compute it, even the result is the explosion. You got 2 to the power 100 cells. No matter what efficient algorithm compute it, you just cannot compute it finishing, and you just cannot store it. Can we do it? Okay. The problem is not we want to compute the whole cube. Because compute the whole cube is impossible. It's just too big. Explosive. But we want to do minimal cubing, but we want to still support high-dimensional OLAP. Okay. It is very interesting because I got one PhD student doing summer intern in a company. Okay. And he dropped me an email. He said, you know what we are doing in my company? He said, we are implementing your 2004 yearly paper. Okay, I immediately laughing because I know what he means. He was saying things. This paper, we did it. But even in 2016, summer, this company, this is a startup company. They want to do the high dimension OLAP. They are implementing this algorithm. That implies it's pretty useful. Why is it so useful? Why you can do high dimension OLAP with very minimal computation? You can do very efficient OLAP. Let's look at this. The general observation is this. There's no way you can compute all of that. But what about you compute some small dimension which can guide you to do efficient online computation in a very flexible way? Then essentially, you compute some very fragment thing, support your whole thing, raise up in very high speed. Now do this. The philosophy is compute shear fragments. Okay. What is shear fragment? I told you the watermelon, right? The watermelon, of course, watermelon is 3D, right? But watermelon, you have a shear, the skin of the watermelon. The inside actually is bigger than the skin. You think about this. You buy the watermelon, you want a thin skin, so you get a bigger things inside, right? That's a common sense. Then, what about if we think this high-dimensional OLAP is like a high-dimensional watermelon? Okay, it's so big inside, it's just not reachable. So what about we pre-compute the shell? That means the skin. We pre-compute it. We pre-compute skin. If you want to drill anything, you say, "Oh, follow this portion of the skin." Okay. That's a portion linking to the inside. Don't look at the whole watermelon. Just I provide the skin, the multi-dimensional skin, to help you focus down the portion of the watermelon you really want to look at. That's the idea. Okay, the watermelon is so big, but the skin is so thin. Get a multiple thin skin. You got it in. You focus on the right portion, and you focus on the efficient computing. That's the idea. Let's look at what we call this one, the semi-online computation model. That means we never say we pre-compute the whole thing beforehand. You just cannot do it. But you can do semi-online. And we actually did a pre-computation on the thin skin. The remaining thing, the portion you got, is pretty small. Then you can do online, even if you do online, say, multi-way array aggregation. So how we can do this? Now you look at the trick. We just look at the trick is this. Okay. Suppose you get 5 dimensions, A, B, C, D. Of course, 5 dimensions can compute everything. But I just assume we just use a little smaller one to show the idea. Suppose you get A, B, C, D, E. These are the real data sets. Like a Walmart. These are the real transaction. But they are 5 dimensions. What about this? Okay, the dimension is too big. What about we chop them somewhere, like a cut a watermelon somewhere? Okay. If I cut ABC as one partition, DE as another partition, immediately, originally I have 5 dimensions, now I have only 3D and 2D, right? Then I probably can compute 3D, 2D efficiently. Then you may say, this is cheating. You can see, you can compute ABC, you can compute DE. My query actually is not just on ABC or DE. My query is BCD. Okay, I want to compute this part. Then you cut watermelon in the wrong partition. You can see my query involves BCD. You cut in the middle, you can never recover it. Okay, so you may think this way. Actually, we do have the trick to link this cut part, and everything will still be there. How do you do that? You can look at this. If we do this, we have one thing is my tuple ID. This one actually passing through all the dimensions. This is my glue to glue all the partitions together. Okay, that's important glue. Now you can see how I partition them, how I do it. Okay, you can see this. If I partition this ABC into this ABC, you can see this part is attribute value for dimension ABC. This is the attribute value for DE here. Okay. For each one, like A1, I wrote down all the values, like 1, 2, 3 means I have tuple ID 1, 2, 3 containing A1. You can see this is I 1, 2, 3. And the size or the count is 3, right? Then I may have A2 touching 4, 5. The count is 2. So you can see B1. You can see B1 is B1, 1, 1 here. Is 1, 4, 5. The size is 3. I actually partition this. I start doing aggregation. Okay. But I doing aggregation here is for any single dimension. A, B, C, I got this one. And D, E, I got this. This is single dimension there. Okay. But I actually can get a 2D, 3D computing this way because I can combine A1 and B1, A1 and B2. I can do this computation, see how many. But remember, this computation, I don't have to go to the original table. This one contains all the information I need. You can think about this. I want to compute A1, B1. How I compute it? A1, B1, I just intersect this PID there, the tuple ID there. You can see, once you do interception, only one left. That means only PID1 contains both A1, B1. You look at this. A1, B1 is only 1, right? I do this PID intersection. I can do any computation I need on my own. Actually, this also can bridge A and B because they share the same PID. You can think about even chop them. Anytime I want to recover them, I can get them back. Right? You can see that. So what's the trick I do? The trick is this. I first chop a big dimension into some small one. I compute every small one. I can say, when I chop it, I can say, every chopping is 2D, 3D. Even you get 100 dimensions, I can chop them in a very small one. For each one, I can compute a cube in this way. The problem becomes how, when you want to get some cube, which is across different dimensions, how can I recover it? You can see, I can compute the 1D, 2D cube in this way, in a very efficient way. I just got a PID. I can compute it. But once I compute them, you can see this is the computation, this is the count and sum, all the measures I can compute. Of course, here I only show the count, but if you have a sum, average, max, mean, anything I can compute in the same way. But how I can recover it? Because once I chop this watermelon into so thin, so many thin skins, can I recover this watermelon? Okay. In real life, you cut watermelon, you can never recover them, right? But I do have a glue. My glue is PID-less. I actually can recover them anything you like using my PID list. I can link those different portions to get things I need. Okay. So let's first look at the trick. Then I can go back to give you a little analytical analysis. The trick is this. Okay. You can see I have a very, very big dimension space. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, anything. So very long. Suppose I chop in a way, like ABC is 1, EF is 1, I can chop it 3, 3, 3 into this many, many small thin shells. I can compute the cube for this small one. This one is close. Anything is 2, 3, very easy. But how can I get back if you need something to process? That means you need to say, I need a watermelon, this part, this part, this part. Now you chop it. How can I bring them back? It's not hard. You can think about this. Okay, I just show you the picture. This is the portion of the watermelon you're interested. This is another part I cut interested. This is another part. This is another part. This is another part. The guy may say, you are really, really bad. You can see, I need a B, I need a DE, I need a GH, I need I need KL. Okay? You all chop them into fragments. How can I put them back? You do have a good glue, which is PID. You can see here, you can bring this one, this one, this one, this one back into the paper. That means you remember this part, you construct them, you compute them beforehand. Then when you want those dimensions in different portion of your cut watermelon, you can bring them back and reconstruct it. Remember, your real watermelon is done by the biological cells. You bring them back, it's still broken. Right? These are just the data sets. You have a TID. You bring them back, you restore them in the exact same way. You never lose anything, right? So you think about this. In the next lecture, I will give you the whole picture, how this one is computed, how this one can be done very nicely, very efficiently. Why 2016 people are still interested in this algorithm? Okay, thank you.